trying to remove late payments from your credit report, this is going to be the video you're going to want to watch all the way through. I have a special treat just for you. You might have noticed that your credit score actually decreased whenever you started to dispute negative accounts, and it's likely because those accounts were contributing positively to either your credit mix and or your credit age, because those are two factors that, although do not make up the majority of the credit score points that you can gain from having responsible usage of any of your trade lines, but they really do pack a punch when we start the process of repairing our credit. 9 times out of 10, you're trying to delete accounts off of your credit report. I'm going to show you a variety of examples of accounts that have negative late payments, and I'm going to walk you through exactly how I would go about handling them, because if you are trying to dispute and not actually delete these accounts, you're going to want to make sure that you're doing it in a very specific way so the credit reporting agencies know exactly the type of outcome you're expecting. Now, what you're going to need in order to start disputing these late payments are going to be all 3 copies of your credit report. This includes Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You're going to need an account with the CFPB. If you don't already have one, you can just go on to consumerfinance.gov. I'll leave the link in the description below for you to just create an account really quickly. And if you like the added benefit of getting notifications whenever the credit reporting agencies are working on your dispute, you can go ahead and create free accounts with each of the credit reporting agencies themselves. And if you're ready, let's jump on the computer. When it comes to consumer law, we have to keep in mind maximum accuracy. You can find that in the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. With a lot of the accounts that I'm actually going to show you today, we need to consider all consumer laws: the Truth in Lending Act, the Higher Education Act, as well as the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Our first goal is to get these late payments actually updated to on time. Now, there's a potential these can be updated to no data. And I'll tell you a little bit about that in the end, because it's not as bad as what you think it is, but it is something we do not want. Now, in this process, we're going to be looking for the most common late payment errors as we build up our factual disputing. So these are going to be errors related to wrong dates, incomplete reporting. If you have a late payment on, say, a student loan account, but that creditor did not follow the regulations as they should have been. And there's always re-aging the account, and if that account has an incorrect status, which impacts how that late would have shown up anyway. So the first example that I'm going to show you is actually a mortgage account. And if you're curious as to how you can see your credit report show up just like this, I have a link to a 3 bureau credit report down in the description below. It gets you this type of format that honestly is very easy to read. For just $1 on a 7-day trial, cancel anytime. Now, this account is for a mortgage, and this person was late in the second half of 2019, the beginning of 2020, and then again in December of 2020. Now, we all know what happened during 2020. So there is an additional lever that we can pull, which is, of course, the CARES Act. But I want you to notice how this account, this creditor, reports to all 3 credit reporting agencies. But when you look at Equifax, it looks like they have all on-time payments. So one thing that I want you to also be a little nitpicky with is the date of last payment. You'll often see that the date for Equifax is always wrong. It's either the first or the last day of the month, I feel like, at least from my experience looking at credit reports. And TransUnion and Experian, I feel like, have the true due date of the payment that was made. But that is something you can still, be a little, that's not maximum accuracy. Those dates should all match. So that's a call out. The other thing that we can still call out is the fact that if this person did pay in September, like Experian says, that data doesn't show up for TransUnion or Equifax. Whenever you have no data, you're not getting any points, but you're also not being hurt by the loss of any points either. What happens is when you don't pay, you lose points. When you pay, you get points. If they don't report, you don't get any points. And we want to make sure that we're getting all of our points. So when it comes to the lates back in October, December, and January, I want you to also consider this. Whenever you have a 30-day late, say you were due November 22nd, missed that payment. There's not a marker for 15 days late or 5 days late or 29 days late. It's only 30 days late. So by the time December 22nd came, this person was 30 days late. They didn't pay, so they got hit with the 30 days late. But January also says that you were 30 days late. That isn't really consistent. This person would have been 30-60, not 30-30. So that's another argument that you can make. And then again in December, because this is during the pandemic, you could argue that you're having a late payment show up, which is in violations of the CARES Act, so that late payment shouldn't be there. You can also argue that how can you be 30 days late according to TransUnion if your Equifax report shows that you paid on time. Now here we have an Affirm, and I know y'all love y'all's buy now, pay later, but the thing about Affirm out of all of them, it really only reports to Experian. So when we're talking about factually disputing, Affirm does make it hard because you don't have an Equifax or a TransUnion to really compare this to. But even Affirm can make mistakes. I don't feel like they often make mistakes, but they do make mistakes in their reporting. Now, this account was sent off to collections at one point, but this person did end up paying it. But what I want you to notice is March 2022, as well as April 2022, you have 60 days late, 60 days late. It should be going 30, 60, 90. And then here we see that it was in collection. But what I also want you to notice in the date of last payment that we have here, it says that this person paid the 13th of October, but it still has the status as being in collection. Not that the account was closed or anything like that, not that they paid, but they're still in collection on the 30th, on October. A little nitpicky, but I'm calling out everything because I want the late payment gone. I also want you to keep in mind though, whenever you see accounts like this, where you have the repeated late payments and then this account was sent to collections, despite the fact that you did go ahead and pay this collection off, which you should never do without a pay for delete, this is an account where I don't really want to dispute these late payments. I actually want to get rid of this entire account, which I know could suck because this account was open in 2019, but there really is no point in keeping this type of account around. But I wanted to show it to you because it does have some errors that are pretty common, and you likely have an account like this that you're really trying to save, but honestly there really isn't any use in trying to save an account with this many lates and this many negative marks like a collection. Now I want to show you a student loan, and I am not a fan of taking student loans off of our credit reports, especially if you are a millennial. Those are probably your oldest lines of credit. They look so good because they're installment loans. You've had them for forever. They're just really going to help your credit report without you feeling like you have to go out and get other credit builders temporarily. So here we have this Sallie Mae education loan where this person was late back in 2023 and again in 2024. Here we have the date of last payment, which was December 3rd, 2024, but only Experian says that we paid. So we want to get our on-time payments because these are going to be recent on-time payments, so they're going to help the most. But here, when we look back in time, we have the repeated 90 days, and then September we paid, but October 2023, it just jumped to 60. I don't know what type of time machine that we have. None of this past it can really be accurate. It can't be. Math may not be my ministry, but this can't be correct. So this is what we would be disputing. The argument could be, well, I paid on time. I don't understand how this is reporting inaccurately. And that is what would be the reason. Just like this, January 2023, we paid on time, but February 2023, 60 days late. So this just is completely incorrect. We don't necessarily have to go to the creditor to fix this. We could literally just go to the credit reporting agencies who should be maintaining maximum accuracy. Even if we didn't say anything, something in their system should have caught the fact that here comes a 60-day late when the month prior they were on time. When it comes to closed accounts, you want to keep in mind that you want to dispute these separate from charge-offs, collections when you're disputing directly with the credit reporting agency. We don't want to confuse anybody when we're attempting to get some accounts deleted, and we're trying to get our late payments actually just updated to on time. When you're deciding, are you going to just go right out the gate and show them all the evidence you have, just like the examples where Equifax said that you were on time, but TransUnion said that you were late, that's when I'm going to go in with factual disputing. Now, you can send your first round letter and ask them to just do an investigation, or you can come out the gate swinging softly, not with the most aggressive letter possible, but just say, hey, I found this error on my credit report and I want you to go ahead and update this to on time because it's reporting inaccurately compared to my other credit reports. And that's when I would show them Equifax. I would just copy and paste it over, just that one, in case Experian and TransUnion both say that you were late and Equifax said that you were on time. My money is on, I think Equifax is correct. Now, during times where you don't necessarily have that type of evidence to show, you really can't put together anything to show inconsistent, inaccurate, that's when I'm going to rely heavy on consumer law. Maybe you had gotten some late during the pandemic that shouldn't have been reported as late because they fell under the CARES Act. These are situations where I'm just going to start off by asking them to conduct an investigation and anything that they cannot verify to go ahead and update that to on time. And you want to be very specific about that wording because we want on time payments. That's what's really going to boost your credit score. When it comes to disputing open accounts, if you see that you have some inaccurate, inconsistent, again, you want to go with factual disputing because you'll have some evidence to basically say Experian was wrong because Equifax is right. But when you don't have that, you should expect an investigation to take place with that creditor who you have an open account for. So you're kind of top of mind for them, and they would essentially provide all of the evidence that they need to prove, no, you were late. So in those situations, if the late payment was recent, you can always send a goodwill letter. Now, if you call, it's unlikely the first representative you speak to is going to be able to update that late payment to on time. So you can ask to speak to a supervisor, you can send a letter in, just not let up until you can eventually get that late payment changed to on time. I would only try that if you are caught back up on your payments and you don't have, say, a 90-day late that you're trying to update to on time. Because just like we're going to argue maximum accuracy, if you were late, well, that is maximum accuracy. But whether they are closed or open accounts, especially when you do have open accounts, these consumer laws would still apply. There are consumer laws specific towards credit cards. If your student loans have a 90-day late, that's randomly on there. I know a lot of people are going through that now. And maybe you didn't have a late payment that said you were late February, 60 days, in January, 30 days. You can argue that it's inconsistent reporting and it needs to be reporting accurately, as the same thing would go from any other type of loan that may have in its contract how they go about reporting lates. Now, how you're going to go about stopping future late payments. If you're someone who got a recent late payment, I would immediately call the creditor. And they're not going to report that 30-day late until it's been 30 days since that missed payment. So you can always call them up immediately. Sometimes it helps if you don't have auto pay turned down to go ahead and turn on auto pay because they can see it on their end. And if this is your first time being late, just say, hey, I'm so sorry. I totally spaced out on this. Is there any way that you can forgive the late payment or waive the late fee? And a lot of times they will do that. This is your first time. They will go ahead and they will not report that as a late to the credit reporting agencies. So that way you don't have to get hit with a 50-point deduction in your credit score. Another way to stop late payments in the future is, of course, to set your accounts to auto pay. Now, I know when it comes to credit cards, people are a little feel a type of way about setting auto pay for the full amount. What I personally do is I just set auto pay for the minimum. That is going to keep me from getting late payment and a late fee. Paying my credit card off in full, that's going to help me keep my utilization down. I, of course, care more about the late payments than I do about the utilization. I can always bring that down. And if your utilization date, your closing date, is a few days after your due date, then if you forgot to go in there and pay that credit card off on the day that it was due, you can always go back in the next day and pay that credit card off before that statement actually closes. Don't forget to check the description below for additional resources on any of the tools that I've used today to walk you through how you're going to dispute your late payments off of your credit report and start seeing your credit score go up in 2025. And don't forget to subscribe if you do like credit repair tips and credit building hacks. Bye.